Something showed up in the mail today. Let's go around and take a look. Oof. So I'm a believer that once I break it or something bad happens where it fails, I need to go ahead and make improvements. And so one of those improvements that I decided to do is, instead of just popping out a dent or trying to work with it, when I messed up my rear corner panel, which I'll go ahead and document here, while I was doing rusty nail, decided to go ahead and bite the bullet, spend quite a bit more money than what I had before, and go with the GenRight corner armor. Quite a few reasons why to do it, but one of the biggest reasons that I thought was the full armor with the recessed taillights in there, so that way I'm not leaving anything to just be plainly touching the regular sheet metal on the tub anymore. This is the rear tail light, which is actually the source of the damage. It isn't really from hitting this. As you can tell, these are Poison Spyder ones, and it took the scrapes really, really well. And I got some more while I was down in Sand Hollow in the corner armor. The area that really didn't do well was when I hit the tail light. And I thought when I originally got these, let's go ahead and get one that doesn't have you cutting out the tub, because I didn't want to do any giant cuts in the tub, and figured I'll get one that wraps around these taillights, and the taillights get damaged, who cares, I'll buy new ones, right? Well, the problem is when you hit these, it'll push you in. Here's what we went with. I decided to go with my favorite setup, and that was this rounded rear taillights that are fully recessed in there. They do stick out a little bit so you can see the side marker on those, but I think these are amazing. They're made from GenRight. They even have a newer model out, which is super awesome, which is a squared one that has a little bit more protection when it comes here. I wanted the recessed version. Check out their new ones, definitely worth the buy. This is the amount of damage we have once I take it off. So that's a pretty good sized dent that got pushed into the lower corner. The big difference on the passenger side is that I have the tire carrier mounts bolted through on this. Now I bought the weld on ones because this is my first time putting it on, so I might as well take care of the weld versus going ahead and just going with this plate that's a mount on. One of the things that I did when I first did my corner armor is, when I drilled this out, you paint it because you obviously don't rust, but I also, when I was putting in these nutserts, I used some of this silica, whatever, caulking. I went ahead and marked this up. I just held the flare up to it and kind of got the gist of where it's going to go. Now, what I realized is all the holes that I have, you can barely see the corner of that one. I'm going to have to completely move that hole and weld in this other one with some tack welds and some sanding. And the same thing goes for this one down here at the bottom. We are all set up now to go ahead and do the drilling of these. Now you can secure it. GenRight has you secure it like this. And then use clamps and stuff like that to suck it in, because if it's not, it's going to move by like a little bit, which isn't very fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and just take a 1/4 inch drill bit and drill it while it's in place, and use this to hold it in place, the holes that are pre-drilled in here, going through here. And then you'll go to a larger drill bit, which is a 3/8, and then you go to a 25/32, whatever, right? Like, that's just going to be what it's going to be. So I do have a little bit of repair to do. It did come with the factory with a couple of blemishes on here, so I'll probably hit that with a spot weld after I get it ready for a little bit of weld and then sand it down. I'm going to end up with much worse dents than that, but just when it's brand new, I want to make sure it's as good as possible. Have another little blip right here, but that one I'll just sand out. right, here we go. We got all the holes drilled out. Now I should have put a layer of tape across the top edge, but I should also be washing this off. I might take a damp cloth and clean it off. But this is the spot I had to hammer in. You can see I cracked the paint right there. So kind of a bummer, kind of a dumb deal of me. I should have figured out a better way, but now it goes in. This side's pushed in just a touch. I think once I go ahead and tighten stuff down, it'll suck it in. Now I could get one of my dent pullers, just some glue, and pull that out, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Oof. Yeah, that's about right. Here's where we're at. I got everything painted and clear coated. Obviously I didn't do the greatest job, but it's all good. It's going underneath. Had to spray on the inside and clear coat a little bit here, get the edges. Now I do have to make a confession here right off the bat. I cut these holes a lot larger than what GenRight will give you, so please use their instructions. They give you a paper template that you're able to go ahead and put in here. I think that's how it goes, like that, and that's your hole. But honestly, this is right in the middle. This spot right here drops right in the middle of the light, so it's more like this. Okay, there's your curve line, bend line. Yeah, that's not quite right. Anyways, you have this, you can use this for your circle and size. I just cut it out and removed it and painted it up. Now I have plenty of room, so you don't have to go quite this big, but you know what? Forget about it. It's easier for me to get my hand in there and fix some stuff up. We're all good. Time to go ahead and fix the two holes right here and right in the bottom there that are on the actual corner panel, and grind those out, and then we'll go ahead and weld and fill in those holes and such. Alright, well that went pretty well. So now I'm going to have to go ahead and start fill welding this, and then kind of round it off there, and then get started on this one over here. So all I did was just, you know, fill well a little bit here and a little bit here. So I'll go ahead and flap those flat and we'll be good. Threw a little tack onto there, sanded it down, smooth that out, flatten that little bit out that was on there, and then here's our holes. Not completely perfect, but dang close, right? Like, so let's get this on and see what she looks like after we go ahead and throw in those nutserts. I use a nutsert tool when putting these nutserts in, and it was a little confusing for me when I first started doing it. So, and I've snapped one of these quarter 20 ones on there. So all I do is I take the nutsert, I thread it on till the bolt's right at the back of it, just like that. And then for me, the extra security scenario is going to be a little bit of this here on it. This surrounds the whole nutsert, and then that way the water can't get through the backside and it holds it tighter. Then I'll just shove it on in there. Squeeze the handles together. I'm gentle on this because it can break it. And then I just unscrew this head. There you go. Then just wipe out that excess, and that'll push it around the head anyways. The only ones I'm reusing are going to be this one down here and this one right here. We got the rough fit in. I think what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to sand around the holes a little bit, because it's just tiny little bit depending on how tight it is, just to free them up a little bit. This worked out great. Had to wallow it out a little bit. So, but we're in on all these. Now we're ready for paint on the fender flare. But I'm just going to go ahead and give these a little bit of sand to make room, and especially if I do powder coat it, to give room for the powder coat as well. I went through and I had to, well, I felt like retapping some of these, so I ran a tap through it, and when I was doing this first one, it started to spin on me, which wasn't good. So I finished the tap, but I ended up retightening them a little bit. And you can tell, I don't know if this is going to focus, but you can see the silicone kind of bulging on some of these out of there. So I went through and tightened up all of them, made sure I tapped them all. Last thing I want is to have a bolt stuck in there where I'm trying to release it. This one spun a little bit, so I tightened it down, and you can see the silicone bulging a little bit, but went through and got all that done. So this side's ready for going ahead and getting that powder coated or taken care of. It's on to the driver's side. I just marked out as best as I kind of could to set myself up well for these. Now I'll be able to do it with the tire carrier, but the tire carrier kind of shifted around a little bit. It does with weight. So we'll fix that up. But I took just a flat edge, set it on top of here, and then marked that. So that was that. Same here, and then the top of this to help me get the measurements. And then I marked a pinhole drop down through here, and then those lines are about where these bolts go through. These came with the tire carrier. They don't come with the tabs. The tabs just came with this. I ordered these separate. Now, two of them make sense real easy because they have a different size tab that goes into them. So those sides can't be mixed up. What they didn't do, which I would have appreciated, is if there was another tab on the other side to help, but I'm certain that's so that way the fit and finish looks as nice as possible. I looked at my existing one and found out that they put the tab on the bottom so that way they welded it in, it would be down there. So I'm having to guess. I'll probably do some more research, but they each come with notches in there and different numbers. So like this one's got 4 notches, this one's got 3 notches, so I'm hoping those go together. This one's got 2, this one's got 1. So if I was going to do it once on the top, then 2, then 3, then 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4 is my hope of figuring out what that was. So I will need to go ahead and drill through my corner armor for this piece when we have it. But the nice thing is everything behind it's already taken care of. Cut me a little jig that matched that other side. So the other side was like this, just flipped it, threw it up in here, lined it. Let's get you caught up. So I put the corner armor on. I put a clamp from the light in there to suck this in sideways, the actual, to get this lined up. This is where the dot is compared to the original installed one. For like, say, if I'm going to use the stock one, it's too close to this one. I redid this one because last time when I had to go ahead and take off the armor to get ready to go ahead and do the bolt-on version of the attach plate, I had to cut this out. Luckily, it was one that you can reach from inside of the light, but so I redid that. Make sure these things are tight, because if they spin on you, nightmares. Got it all sprayed in here. I'll do one more coat of white before I go clear on this. Inserts are in. I went through and chased it with a 1/4-20 tap, and let me tell you, I think that's essential. Had a few of these where the threads were kind of buggered up a bit trying to go ahead and run the tap through it. This one was pretty bad. This one spun on me when I was trying to get the tap run through it to chase the threads out. So that was good for me to go ahead, grab the nutsert tool, tighten it down some more, and do that. So my recommendation if you're doing nutserts is always chase the threads. All right, we have this installed, got everything fit up. I still gotta weld this stuff in here, and here, but I got these drilled out. I used a smaller drill bit first and then used my Dremel to kind of get in the right spot. This is getting held off a little bit. I think it has to do with that screw in part right there that I hammered over there and broke it. Instead, I'm gonna take a flap disc and just wipe that sucker out. This is the part that I'm talking about. It has a little nub right here. That's all knocked out now. And then I noticed there were some rub marks still on this side. So I went ahead and took the sanding disc and hit this too a little bit. Sanding that nub off did change stuff. I was able to suck it in a little bit more. So my holes, I ended up having to move up into the left a bit. Even had to do this one a little bit. And then these holes I had to hollow out and kind of move them too. So definitely before you dry fit this and drill these holes, sand off that nub that's right there. If you do the circle, that's great, but get that nub out of the way. Now moving this to the welded ones has brought the tire carrier in closer to the tailgate. So I have this set up. I haven't used a CB in forever, but I have this set up so I have a CB mount, I have my for my GMRS, and then I have my whip mount. But when you pull this in now, before I can get it to here, I'm bumping into that CB mount. Therefore, I'm going to have to remove that in order to get this in. Well. Okay. So when I put them in the order, so 1 notch, 2 notch, 3 notch, 4 notch, they line up, right? Top to bottom real good. But the 3 and 4, for whatever reason, probably how mine's like leaned in or what have you, it would do better if I went ahead and removed the little tabs that are on here. So on the 3 and 4, I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. Let's see if I can do this with one hand and make it nice for you. So when I have the 1-2 set up, which is nice and tight to the fender flare and such, sits, bolt goes straight through, real nice. I just use bungee cords around the tailgate to suck this in. That's the top one. So you can see I need to shave it, and so I'll just shave the little bumps off of here and get it right. The nice thing about having the temporary one, not the temporary one, but the other one, the original one I had, is I could line up these holes and then put exactly dead center where these were. And so now when I get it in there squared up, I'm able to go ahead and go, yeah, we're not exactly where we're supposed to be. So right here, I'm a length low. So all I got to do is, let's see if I can do this and hold this. Lift up a little bit, extend the jack. Let's see. Now when it's on the bottom, yeah, we're in a good spot now that we're there. So I want to weld in this hole before you do this. Uniquely enough, at least to where mine's mounted, their original hole is right in the way of where you'd put these. So I don't know about all that. Here's the quick little setup I put in here. Setting it up against that, getting it pushed up against there, and then put my dish in, and then I just held something up against there to make sure my setback is the same on this. Clamp here to try to keep it squared up. Tack that baby in, and yeah, buddy. Holes are all filled in the corners, and then this one, so all three have been filled in on both sides, inside, outside. Sand it down. Amateur hour was this stuff. It was like my wire feed was too much, or my heat was too low. I was trying to be careful because I was right on the edge of this, and ended up pulling a lot, so I had to sand it down, and then I'm still filling in a little bit of crap. So I'm gonna kind of sand this out to make it what it needs to be, but I welded the inside a little bit too. Not the greatest of all welds at all. Time to walk you through some really poor logic here. So here's a set of drill bits, old Walmart Hart's brand, but you can see they have ascending order. So you have the 1/4 inch, which is what the size of the bolt is, and a lot of the hole, and then it goes up a few. So 5/16 is your normal drill bit size up, and then this 1964 is more like the rarity specialty one that you would have. So let's pull that out. Here's my old corner armors from Poison Spyder, which come with the Armor Tech or whatever they call it on there already. So if you go with this 1964, it goes through the hole perfectly, right? Like that's just perfect. But knowing that you have to put some coating in there, I think what I'm going to do, it may be ill-advised, but I'm going to drill out all the holes on my new ones out to 5/16, so when it goes to powder coat and it gets in there and fills it in a little, it'll come back closer to this 1964, which is a match. Got it all set up. I took most of the bolts back out, but so you can see on the top one, it's got the single notch, And the 2 notches, I had to grind these ones down, so it's still 3/4. So if you're looking at the things, the one that had 1 notch, 2 notches, 3 notches, and 4 notches, just the way that mine was set up and how I got mine to sink in or not sink in, I had to grind this lower one down until it fit and line it up with the tire carrier. All the welding's done up. I got it pretty well cleaned up. Drilled out these 2 holes with the 5/16. Everything looks great. Alignment's great. This is going to be awesome. I'll go ahead and put the bumps in here into these holes that I drilled to go ahead and brace it up, but stoked. One quick little note is, if you see right here, I beveled these inside edges a little bit. They don't come that way because obviously that's a lot more work for GenRight. On their one that you bolt on, those are already beveled in. So I decided to match it up. That's one little thing to keep note of that might make everything slide, slippity slide a little bit better. So there you go. The rear taillights are super easy to mount. They just sit in here. There is a correct way. Just go with the writing on it, and you have your side marker facing out. Wire pack is down on the bottom, but it literally just go ahead and slide in here. And then these are pre-threaded holes for you to take your bolts and just bolt through here and tighten it up. They give you instructions on your wiring on how to wire it up. All I'm going to take is my cheap Amazon taillights that I have, cut off the crap that was on them, and looks like they want you to have a resistor and everything. So I don't have a resistor that came with these, which is fine because I have all this and all my Amazon stuff. And these are max built lights that they sell. So I bet you they sell a resistor set separate that I was unaware of. I mean, maybe I missed it, right? I would like to think that maybe I lost the package that has this stuff in there. But I'm gonna go ahead and take the wiring off of my existing Amazon specials and connect these wires in the back of these to them, and then be able to go ahead and plug them in, start bolting everything up. You have black, white, red, and yellow, which corresponds to what you'll get on the back of a JKU. Black, white, red, and yellow. Now the resistor is where they have in here, and they say one end of the resistor goes to either white or yellow, and then the other half goes to the black. Obviously there's a white yellow, so that one's yellow, right? So the top one's yellow. So one of them goes to yellow and the other one goes to black, ultimately. And then I double checked when I went in here and I looked. We'll see if you can get into it. So it's kind of tight in here, but there's a dual prong one right there. You see how 2 of them are kind of going into one? That's the yellow and a black right there. So you know that's paired up. And then the other one that's doing the exact same thing. Sorry, this one's a little bit crooked in there. Are gonna be your 2 blacks right there. All the other ones are just singles. This double is out. This red is just a single. It's not connected. So I know it's the yellow and the black, and then I'm just gonna keep the polarity the same. It's just a resistor, so it'll work either which way. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep this end with the yellow and then this end with the black when I cut it out. We got these all, I can use the solder connections when I do mine. It's a little tight. I like it as tight as possible. And I'm definitely using the wrong color heat shrink on these last ones, but my other black is way too thick for it to not actually suck down on it. So who cares if it's red? But we'll get that shrunk down. Now all I gotta do is find the other tail light that I misplaced so I can do the wiring on the other side. Here is the finished product, all put on. I need to finish up the gas cap. I'll throw on the driver's side. I haven't finished that one up, but this is what you're looking at. Tail lights look amazing. Lights worked great. All the wiring was well. Great fit right here. So I'll go ahead and throw these little bumps in there. I'm going to measure for the bumps and just bolt those through and get them good and tight. But that is going to be perfect.